Thousands of non-citizens were added to New Jersey's voter rolls, and some even voted because of a computer glitch. Another state says it's trying to clean that up. New Jersey's Governor Mikey Sherrill says that a software error in the state's motor vehicle system led to about 6,600 people who are not citizens being registered as Garden State voters when they applied for a driver's license.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. So President Trump has been proven right once again, because less than a week after giving that speech in regards to election integrity, we have a Democrat governor, Mikey Sherrill from New Jersey, coming out admitting that there are thousands of illegal immigrants who are non-citizens that are registered to vote, and a lot of them actually voted. But according to the Democrats, illegal immigrants aren't voting at all, and the issue is much bigger than we initially thought. But let us take a look at exactly what is going on by starting with that speech from Mikey Sherrill admitting that there are illegal immigrants or non-citizens registered to vote. Watch this.
Were asked if they wanted to register to vote. In the case of this error, some individuals indicated that they weren't citizens and weren't eligible to vote, but the software registered them anyway. The error in the software was corrected a year later in June of 2024. That is more than 2 years ago. I learned of this last Wednesday, and I immediately ordered my chief counsel to launch a comprehensive investigation. Currently, the Division of Elections is working to ensure anyone who is illegally registered is removed.
So you heard that correctly. That is Governor Mikey Sherrill, a Democrat from New Jersey, sitting there saying that there are illegal immigrants that are registered to vote or non-citizens, because it could be someone with a green card that they're registered to vote. And there are reports stating that these individuals actually voted. But according to the Democrats, this is a non-issue where illegal immigrants are registered to vote and where they're voting. And she said she learned about it last week, which is insane. And the numbers that she cited was about 6,000. But according to President Trump, those numbers are false, because here we have President Trump saying that the real number is 35,000 is the new number just released by Homeland Security's of non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey. These are just the ones that got caught. The real numbers will prove to be many times this amount. They are all Democrats. Republicans, get smart and straighten out our crooked elections. Pass the Save America Act. And we'll get to the Save America Act in just a bit. And here is the Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security, Markwayne Mullin, stating that there are other states with this issue. Take a look at this.
And DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullin, he put it really bluntly and exposed the number of illegal migrants who've registered to vote in just 4 states. Take a listen.
First of all, Department of Homeland Security, we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in just 4 states. Mind you, we have 46 other states, and just 4 states we've identified 250,000 non-citizens registered to vote in California, and Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Nevada.
So that was Markwayne Mullin saying that there are 4 states that they looked at, and over 250,000 illegal immigrants or non-citizens are registered to vote. California, New Jersey, Nevada, and he said another one. But the thing is, he hasn't got to New York as of yet. And 250,000, even if you have a fraction of those individuals voting, that's enough to essentially determine an election. But according to the Democrats, this is a non-issue. And according to the mainstream media, this is not anything to worry about, because when President Trump actually did his speech last week, you have a whole bunch of media organizations that chose to censor the president and not air his speech. And we'll get to that in a bit. But here we have Keith Ellison from up there in Minnesota saying that there are a whole bunch of people that weren't citizens that didn't vote in the last election, and now they'll be able to vote, so they'll exploit that voter demographic. Watch this.
Let me tell you, there's a whole lot of people who were not 18 years old in the last election. There's a whole lot of people who were not naturalized citizens in the last election. There's a whole lot of people who sat it out because of whatever reason in the last election. But you know what? We're going to get them all this election.
That is the Attorney General from up there in Minnesota, and he's the one that let all the Somalis, they run rampant with all the fraud and stuff. He didn't prosecute any of them. And this is what the Democrats, they do. They open the borders, they let a whole bunch of illegal immigrants into the country, and then they give them pathway to citizenship. Once they become citizens, then the Democrats, they expect these illegal immigrants or former illegal immigrants to vote for them. And that is exactly what Keith Ellison is talking about right now. And this is how you end up losing your country. And Minnesota and New Jersey isn't the only state that's facing all these issues regarding people that are on the voter rolls that's not supposed to be on the voter rolls. Because here we have Wisconsin, where they're calling out the numbers in regards to how many folks are registered to vote and how many folks actually lives in the state. Watch this. And these numbers are insane. Watch this.
It gets to the problem that we only have 4 million adults in the state of Wisconsin. So we're approaching, in the 7.13 million number on the voter rolls, that grows almost daily. It never ends. It rarely goes down. And it's even worse than this because there's the 4 million adults in Wisconsin. Not all of them register, not all of them vote. We're really down around about 3.6 million, 3.7 million.
Again, these numbers are insane. And the question that I have for Democrats and the mainstream media, do you believe President Trump now? Because remember, when President Trump, he went up there, he gave his speech, what the mainstream media did, they literally censored the president of the United States. They chose not to air the president's speech. And the Democrats, they've been saying this is a non-issue. This is nothing to worry about. Nothing is going on there. You can look across the country, no illegal immigrants are voting. No illegal immigrants are on voter rolls. And we're seeing the numbers. We're seeing that they're literally illegal immigrants on voter rolls voting. But according to the mainstream media, President Trump is trying to sow doubt. And here we have a reporting showing that the mainstream media, they're still failing to cover what the president spoke about regarding our elections, and that our elections are actually compromised. Watch this.
All of them combine 0 minutes of coverage. They cover everything on ICE, but won't cover this for even 30 seconds. Roma, what do you think?
Well, it's the media cover-up, Trace, and we have been seeing this most frequently during election cycles, and we're getting close to one again here. So the media cover-up, and why? They are in cahoots completely with the Democrats, with the left. If it is a story that is not going to bode well for Republicans, or if it's a story that is not going to help Democrats, they will cover it up.
The mainstream media, they're in bed with the Democrats. And it is clear that they're a wing of the Democrat Party. Because if you look at stories that can be perceived negative regarding President Trump, they'll gladly cover it. For instance, a reflecting pool. After the president fixed the pool, they went over there and they sabotaged a pool. And the mainstream media, they covered it. Oh, President Trump, he failed. UFC 250, the media covered that inside out, trying to paint it as something negative. The White House ballroom. But when it comes to election integrity, they're failing to talk about these things that will literally determine the future of our country. And the question is why? Why is mainstream media not covering these important issues like immigration? What's going on there? What's going on with our elections? And it is simple. They're in bed with the Democrats. Let us talk about the Save America Act, because this is something that will require proof of citizenship and to show voter ID, or to have a voter ID and to show proof of citizenship in order to vote. And here we have a Democrat saying that the Save America Act is seeking to solve a problem that is not an issue.
As we heard in the president's address, he will use these bogus claims to push for passage of this anti-democratic, anti-voting Save America Act. It's already illegal for non-citizens to vote in the United States. They face prosecution and jail time for doing it. The Save America Act attempts to solve a problem that does not exist.
So after we have seen the numbers come out regarding these non-citizens voting on voter rolls, this is still the messaging from the Democrats, saying this is not an issue, it's a non-issue, which is just insane to me, which is why the Republicans, they need us pass the Save America Act, because there's not a lot of time left for us to get this bill through the Senate.
Mr. President, one way or another, we have to get this done. The American people are asking us to act. The president has asked us to act. The only thing standing in the way of this bill passing is the Senate.
I'm wondering what the Senate is waiting for in order to fire John Thune, which is the current leader of the Senate, and replace him with Senator Mike Lee, the Republican senator from Utah, because he's the only one, or one of the only ones in the Senate, that's actively fighting for the Save America Act day in and day out. And that brings us to the end of today's video. I do appreciate you guys watching all the way to the end. Please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Let me know what you think in the comment section in regards to all these numbers coming out of New Jersey and all throughout the country in regards to non-citizens registered to vote and that are voting.